everybody. Welcome to our podcast brought to you by Markov ML. I'm in the studio again today. Excited with Miranda, our new guest today. But before we dive in and introduce, for our listeners, Markov is an AI agent platform for modern go-to-market teams, all about getting work done efficiently, giving you time back to do the high-value work. So check it out, markovml.com. The name of our podcast is What's Data and AI Got to Do with It? So for anybody who relies on data, which let's be honest, everyone in the room, and information, not just numbers, but also info, knowledge, and you want to use AI to operate with high efficiency. So the podcast features guests from go-to-market side of the house, so marketing, sales, product, and strategy. We have a strategist in our midst today, so excited to dive in there. And the podcast, we're only focused on real, authentic stories. We talk about challenges, celebrate our wins, no judgment, only learning. So let's dive in. And our guest today is Miranda Nash. And Miranda, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, how you got into the world of AI with this background of strategy and product management as well?
Well, thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here, Deirdre. And yes, so I'm the group vice president for Oracle's Fusion Applications AI strategy. So I represent Oracle AI, and my responsibility is to bring embedded AI into Oracle's finance cloud, HR cloud, sales, marketing, and service. And you're looking more at that side here, maybe. And responsible for strategy and then how we go to market. And I kind of fell into it, you might say, because my background started as an engineer and started with data many years ago at Oracle. Then I became an entrepreneur, and the idea there is iterate, build, measure, learn. And kind of it was those two things coming together. I rejoined Oracle about 9 years ago to work on embedded AI in our applications. Then ChatGPT happened, and things are going fast and furious.
Yeah, I love that. I love the trajectory. I've been watching from afar. For those listening today, I worked with Miranda for a time way back in the 2010 era and worked for a company that actually moved data in real time, Golden Gate Software. Miranda was instrumental in getting that integrated into the big bad Oracle. I really enjoyed our journey together, and
I did too.
yeah, and AI is such an interesting space. Like we're living through a big dynamic shift in all things tech that's affecting everyday life of, whether you're a consumer or a business user. So I'm excited to get stuck in and learn what you have to share. So as a leader in AI product innovation across Oracle's different groups and product areas, so I know you have a span of like from CRM marketing, human capital management, ERP. Where do you see the fastest adoption of AI today?
So there are a couple dimensions. So one is across domains, and we're seeing it obviously in any kind of interactions with people, right? Very simple, right? So that's customers, specs, in service situations and sales situations, also in HRs, reaching out to employees. A lot of communications happen with employees. So we've seen generative AI really take off there. And I think where we're projecting that agents and more kind of agent-based automation will be going is into some of those more back officey, less communication oriented processes.
Yeah. So like the premise and the promise for AI today is how do we relieve our employees across those business functions of the mundane repetitive tasks, right? So I'm assuming you're sort of referring to what are some of those daily things that you can have AI help with, streamline, automate, make it much more efficient. I'm assuming today, based on everything I'm seeing in the market, like there are still humans in the loop and we haven't completely removed ourselves whereby it's a complete agent to agent situation. What's your
That's
comments on that?
that's true. I think agent to agent is coming, but
Yep.
autonomous agents operating, in narrow domains, we are starting to see that now.
Yep.
Autonomous agents where, I mean, for example, the way we have our customers configure agents, they can control the degree of human,
In the loop.
oversight.
Yep.
And that over time you gain trust, right? And over time, then the degree of autonomy can go up. So, a couple examples. I mean, scheduling in various situations. So we have one agent that, for example, does shift scheduling. And
Right.
that might be at a hospital, or it might be like in a warehouse or other places where you have shifts and you have to fill a schedule, right? And typically in the past, I mean, this would have had to involve a person coordinating calendars,
Yep.
dealing with last minute changes, etc. So that's a great example where, we really can get to autonomy.
Yep. I love that. And I always say that it's the creativity of the people that have to make the decisions on where to implement those agents that will be autonomously doing the work. Like, it's not like, it's still machines, right? It's still, machines talking to machines. So we, as the creators of deciding where those things happen, is critical.
Absolutely. And one thing we see is empowering, business users much more than sort of relying on tech teams necessarily, right?
Yep.
And having to put automation into a long backlog that never gets addressed. I mean, this is really putting no low code tools in the hands of business users to automate the work in their department.
Yeah, love that. Yeah, the fact that a lot of these AI agents have sort of been abstracted away from the underlying code has enabled, people that don't do code all day long, but who understand the business process and the purpose, that can actually effectively do that without having to rely on, busy tech teams or IT teams. So yeah, that's
That's
cool.
right. Mhm.
Um, all right. So switching gears a little bit. So one of your greatest skills is building teams and getting everyone aligned and focused. And, you've done that obviously for many years inside a large enterprise. And when you're focusing people as they take products to market, what's your secret to getting people aligned so that you can get them all marching in the same direction?
Secret. I mean, look, the thing with AI, right, is it is so big that what I'm finding is it breaks down the natural human tendency to try to like own it, because you just can't own AI. I mean,
Yep.
it's too big. And so I've seen that dynamic within Oracle, for example, getting teams to work together. There's much less of this sort of "I want to own it" attitude, and it's more like we are all in this together. It is a huge company transformation. It's a huge industry transformation, and just sort of, I think, tapping into that that true fact,
Yep.
and then helping folks just let go of the fear that they have had by experimenting, by really making the tools available, by using and, encouraging use in our personal lives, using at work, kind of, again, removing the fear, encouraging the we're all in this together.
Yeah. I love that. So, like, one of the things I find myself talking about and ruminating on is um, ChatGPT, right, has sort of shown us all the immediacy and the quick instant value by this sort of easy transactional. Put in a prompt, get an answer, right, or
Mhm.
get lots of things out of that, like, design my vacation coming up in Europe, example, or whatever the prompt is. But I feel like, oh, we're all little individuals claiming that we're using AI by just using a little LLM every day. Take your pick, Claude, Gemini. But that doesn't bring the entire team along collaborating and learning together to solve a very distinct business purpose
Mhm.
or, objective. So the difference between agentic AI versus LLM, that's something that's often talked about. How
Yeah.
do you see that evolving? Is it similar in your world?
It is similar, and it started for us even, let's say, pre-agentic,
Yeah,
because, we are embedding AI in packaged applications, so it needs to be a much more structured and scaling activity than simply individuals interacting with an LLM, right?
yeah,
And in fact, even 2 years ago, our engineered prompts turn out to be far more structured than what just do as an individual talking to ChatGPT, right?
yeah,
And that's in order to get them to work statistically at scale.
right.
And so that was the case even kind of in with embedded generative AI, and that's effectively formalizing those engineered prompts into prepackaged, entities, right? Is
Yeah,
essentially what agents are. And so it's just taking that concept to another level to have predictable results from the reasoning and interaction capabilities of the LLMs. So I
yeah,
kind of just see it as an evolution.
yeah, yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, the underpinnings are the LLMs, but like I always say, there's so many LLMs and they're constantly changing. Like no one human can keep up with that and then bring a whole team along for the ride. Like we would have meetings about it all the time, right? So
So
yeah,
true. And when I talk to our enterprise customers, this is a major point. They don't want to be in charge of keeping track of that, right? And so that's kind of why they rely on vendors uh,
exactly.
to do
Yeah.
it. And that is our day job.
Yeah. And we're not even tapping into privacy and security and compliance capabilities that are important things that big enterprises care about, right? So we don't want employees putting in proprietary financial data into an LLM, for example, right?
True. I mean, to build on that, the way it works in our products, for example, is that the LLM itself is fixed. It's not learning.
Right.
We have individual models potentially that are customer specific that would be learning, and we
Yeah.
maintain state and pass that as context, but basically we don't use customer data for training an LLM.
Right. Yeah, that's an important point there.
Mhm.
And it often comes up. I myself sit on customer calls and, mid-sized to large organizations immediately like, well, okay, where is my data going? Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes. Very
Okay.
important to be transparent about that.
Yeah, exactly. So you touched on like there is a little bit of a fear factor among employees, and large enterprises or otherwise, when they feel the pressure to learn and adopt AI. So there's a lot of, I'm literally looking at a book here in the room I'm in, which is Marketing with AI for Dummies, written by Shiv Singh. I've met the guy, he did a panel recently. So in his words, he said, if you're not running towards AI, you're going to be out of a job soon. So, like, how do you help your customers or even inside of Oracle, people overcome some of this fear?
Yeah. Y- you know, it does start with encouraging use and having people. So everyone, I think, millions, obviously billions of people, I guess, had the ChatGPT moment, and we where wow, this is amazing, right? And it happened so quickly. And now I think what we see is people are going through that kind of that agentic moment and
Yeah,
having the experience of this can automate work for me. It's not just sort of generating text,
yeah,
and if there are steps in my job that, I can kind of pass off to an agent.
yeah,
So it's going to take a little longer for that agentic moment to flow through, but I think that's what we're seeing. And, I was with actually some college students from Cal Poly came to Oracle yesterday. They're focused on analytics, and a lot of folks who are earlier in their careers are asking these questions. And it was really interesting, right? They're saying, I mean, there you hear talk about, well, if agents can do the work that a junior employee might do well, what does that
yeah,
mean, right? And from my point of view, what it means is we don't hire, for example, we were talking about interns. We don't hire interns to do a set of tasks. That's not the point. The point is to have both ways learning, right?
right.
Folks who are early in their careers, folks who are more experienced, and tons of value in that, in those types of learnings, right? Cultural learnings.
Yep.
And that's to your point about kind of getting the culture of AI more than sort of just the task orientation.
Yeah. And I think I love that because learning together, like everybody's buoyed, right? Everybody rises.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, when like people that are straight out of college, they're learning a set of skills that we need to adopt as well. It's a two-way street, right?
Exactly.
I mean, I love working with, people that are young in their early in their career because they have fresh perspectives and they have been exposed to technology all their lives,
Uh-huh.
right? So
Exactly.
their fear of new technology is probably lesser than
Mhm.
some of the employees that are
Right.
millennials or Gen X's. Yeah.
I mean, the studies do seem to say that, right? But one dynamic I thought was pretty interesting was talking to the most senior executives when generative AI really came on the scene. They
Yep.
were influenced by their high school, college age adult children
Yep.
and their adoption of the technology, right?
Yep.
And I don't know, at least when we were talking to C-level folks in big companies, that was a major factor in having it spread so quickly.
Yeah, no, that's one of the, yeah, I mean our engineers and data scientists that have been, building upon these capabilities for years and years, right? AI has been around for a long time, but it's access to the broad public across the world. And you're right, this younger generation has helped fast track that, right? You and I have been working in interesting technology for many years, but like this is like, whoa, this is a wave, right? I find it really exciting. I love it. Um, and also to that point, like the data background, and especially your data background. I'm working in like a company like Oracle, which is the most prevalent database in the world, right? So knowing all of that important foundation so that AI can do its magic is critical. So you bring that to the table. So when you put those teams together, magic should happen, right?
Oh,
Yeah. So like when you're working with clients, alongside your product teams and whether you're talking to an executive, what kind of advice do you give them when thinking about how do we embrace AI or agentic AI as a team? There's always a crawl, walk, run. So, what kind of advice do you typically give them starting out?
well, look, usually thinking about technology adoption, it's all about the ROI, right? And folks all evaluate a given use case and the cost to implement and, the benefits they're going to get from it. That still obviously matters a lot. But there's another factor as well, which is just exercising the muscles for continual adoption and innovation, iteration. And that's a muscle that some customers have at different degrees, right? So we talk about adopting AI for both of those purposes. And so sometimes what folks will do to exercise the muscle is, maybe not the biggest bang, business changing features, but eat low risk, easy to roll out. And then, we start to get the hang of it. And then we see an acceleration. So that's a real practical part of getting comfortable with AI in your business.
Yeah, that makes sense. Crawl, walk, run is always advisable. I mean, at the end of the day, the business has an objective and a thing to do. You probably are doing it a certain way already, using other kinds of technology that may not be AI yet. So you have to really consider, just like any project planning, like what are we trying to do? What are we going to use? How are we going to measure, iterate, right? You still have to do all of that human project management and program management. That doesn't go away, right?
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There is a lot of FUD in the market about, no, you just need lesser humans and the agents are going to take care of business, right? It's like, not so. So, do you personally use AI in your day to day? And I'm assuming you do. And what are some of your top use cases and maybe share some of your favorite examples?
Definitely use for myself, for idea generation, kind of role playing, for example, having a challenging conversation, role play it with AI first. In terms of coolest examples. I'm not sure I have any awesome examples, but there's one agent that I really appreciate personally, and then I'll talk about a work. example. The personal agent I value is actually, it's so obvious. We've had restaurant reservations automated for a long time. But what I love about this particular agent is it interacts with old school wait lists, right? Like a lot of restaurants around in San Francisco, they're still running a handwritten wait list. And I can never seem to call right at 5 o'clock when you have to call to in order to get on the wait list. So tell the agent, this is what I want. And then I show up at 6:30 or whatever at the restaurant and I see my name written down. And that was all on their handwritten list. And that was all due to the agent. And I think it's so cool because it's basically the combination of automation integrating in very human kind of old school process too, so I like that that restaurant reservation agent that handles human interactions. And then at work we are basically I have a group of folks who are basically helping others in the organization build agents, and they are trying to basically put themselves out of a job, right, with the agent that does their job. And I think if each of us can do that, that's pretty powerful. We know they won't get put out of a job, but that's the idea is to go after it with no fear and only with learning. I think that was one of your main themes here in the podcast.
Yeah, love that. Like, think of creatively come up with, if you just sat down and wrote down a list of all the things that you manually do week over week, and then thought about, okay, how can I actually automate this thing that I do, right? I
Uh-huh.
was talking to somebody recently, and AI is great for content creation, and there's so many different LLMs that can help, whether it's tone or brand voice or summary, asserting. And this person I was talking to was like, oh, I wouldn't really want to be an editor in today's world.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, yes, but the editor has desires to do other things. You don't stay editing forever, right? So now you can actually elevate yourself and propel your career and capabilities and learnings so much faster. Like,
Yeah,
I like to think of the opportunity and not what's like being taken away from you.
exactly.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I love your restaurant example, the waitlist thing. And now that more people are socializing and getting out and craving that, real-time interaction, and let's be honest, there's some great restaurants in San Francisco. So yeah, I get that. I'm going to look it up. Um, all right. So in your view, what are the biggest hurdles for teams when adopting AI? So we talked a little bit about some fear, maybe some skill gaps. What do you think are the biggest hurdles getting to more AI?
Well, one hurdle we're trying to help customers with is streamlining their governance process. Obviously, you want to have a well functioning governance process as a large company if you're going to be adopting AI. I mean,
Yep.
it's necessary in a lot of the emerging, regulations. And but that can be a barrier until customers get it sort of functioning well. So I see that for sure. And then it the other the other barriers really are cultural, in
Right.
terms of, again, the culture of iteration, the culture of experimentation. And I don't have any brilliant things there than you've already said along the way.
Yeah. I talked to a pretty large organization recently, and I loved what the leader of the team said, which was, for this year, we are deliberately going to embrace AI solutions. And in fact, we have MBOs put in place to incent teams to like be much more proactive about that. So, like people walk where there is incentives, right? And I loved that this person was putting more intention behind it. So,
And one shift we're seeing, I mean, so I've heard, many companies as well, even at a board level, right, at the suite level, have those kinds of incentives and statements. One thing that I'm seeing shift a bit is away from just we need AI, which is good because it exercises the muscle, toward let's solve this part of the problem and we'll use AI. Let's solve this particular business issue, cumbersome parts of our service process, for example, or supply chain issues where we're too brittle in the supply chain, for example. So focusing in on real business problems.
Yeah. Yeah. Where there's gaps or where there's friction today.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Um, so in that regard, like when people like there is a lot of change management and really rethinking some processes, right? I mean, the way things get done is you have process tools and tech tools, process, and then people, right? And now insert AI. How should teams handle change management as they move sort of away from some of the older technologies and processes that may not work or fit anymore? How do you see that being handled in the future?
Well, look, we'll probably have AI assistants helping with that, right? I mean, we work really closely with partners who are experts in that, and then from a product design standpoint, we really try to um, facilitate that change management through the product design, right?
Yep.
Either reducing change that's required, giving little clues to users through the user interface, right? So that they don't have to kind of learn and then go do and follow something. The product itself guides them along the way.
Yeah. Love that. Yeah. It's doing some as it advances and evolves, it's doing some of the thinking for you. So you're not like alone. It's essentially your co-pilot inside that ERP or human capital
Mhm.
management system already. I mean,
Exactly.
every so often, like the run the business apps, like I'm a marketer, so I use HubSpot, right?
Mhm.
Salespeople are reliant on Salesforce and so on. They're already embedding AI capabilities. So, existing large companies that have a huge customer base, they're grappling it and even doing some acquisition to buoy what their offerings are. So it doesn't have to be net new. It's not like a big bang shift, right?
Exactly.
It's more of a progress and an evolution.
Exactly. And I mean, all those examples you gave are great ones. And at Oracle, we've been embedding AI for, again, almost 10 years.
Yeah,
So it's
crazy, right?
right. Yeah.
Yeah, we may not have been, the customers and the users of your Oracle products, yes. But now that it's large conversation happening everywhere, there's a lot more concentration. So I love that.
Yeah.
All right. So any parting words of wisdom before we sign off for today, Miranda?
I think the parting words of wisdom really are I really like your theme about it's just learning, there's no judgment. And
Yep.
if people can let go of the fear and embrace the learning, that's that's
That's
the
the
way to the
opportunity.
AI success. Exactly.
Yep. I love that. All right. Well, enjoy the rest of your day and thank you to our listeners for tuning in. And we look forward to the next guest. And Rhonda, I appreciate your time and all your wisdom. And it's great to see you again.
Great to see you too. Thank you.